Hello, everyone. Pastor George here with today's Bible study recap. And today in Bible study, we looked at Second Chronicles 25, the kingship of Amaziah. And our question for today was, what makes a good king? And obviously, this is something we've talked a lot about as we've been in these chapters. But I also thought would be interesting would be to connect with what God said in the earlier Torah and what happens in this story. Because Amaziah is not, I mean, Amaziah ends up having a downfall. If you read Second Chronicles 25, you'll see that. But the interesting thing is that he's given a little bit more time than some other people, and he also isn't obviously bad from the get-go. Obviously, a lot of times you'll see things start and they'll say they'll say something along the lines of like he did what was evil in the eyes of the Lord, right? And here in verse 2 it says, and he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, yet not with the whole heart. It's kind of interesting, right? And so I wanted to take that as kind of a launch pad and go, okay, what makes a good king? Well, the easiest thing to do if you want to figure this out is go to Deuteronomy 17, 14 through 20. So when you go there, you're going to see God giving commands to the people of Israel about what makes a good king. And of course, Moses is the one he's speaking through to them. And you'll see a lot of kind of qualifications there. You can make a list, right? That's what we did this morning. We make a list, right? So here's the ones that I think are on there, right? He must be an Israelite. So that's just, kind of like how the president has to be a U.S. citizen, right? Something like that. He doesn't acquire a lot of horses, especially from Egypt, which is interesting, right? He doesn't acquire a lot of wives, okay? He doesn't acquire large amounts of silver and gold. All of these things, by the way, women, gold, and horses are signs of wealth. So he's not supposed to accumulate large amounts of wealth, which is crazy to think about when you're thinking about a king, right? Who is most often the richest person in the kingdom? The king. Oftentimes people would say something is going really wrong if the king is not the wealthiest person, right? Especially back in those days. And so he is the wealthiest person in the kingdom, is how it usually goes. But he shouldn't be. That is what Deuteronomy is saying. It's very interesting, right? And then finally, to listen to the law and to have a copy of it. All right, and so we take these requirements and we go to Amaziah, and we see that Amaziah actually does a very good job of following a lot of this list, right? Like he when he becomes the king, he killed the people who killed the previous king, his father, right? So he puts them to death, but he doesn't put their children to death, which was a common thing to happen. Why? Well, because the Torah says not to. Fathers shall not die because of their children, nor children die because of their fathers, but each one shall die for his own sin, right? So he clearly cares about what the Torah has to say. Then he goes into war, right? And he pays these people this silver, these mercenaries, right, to fight for him. And then a prophet comes and says, no, don't do this. Don't. If you go to war with Israel, they're fighting the northern kingdom, right? Don't pay these people all these types of things, like the Lord is with you, right? And he's worried about it, but the guy says, don't worry, the Lord is with you. He's going to be with you. So he sends them in a way, and they go and they win, right? And then you'll see that he. So you see right there, right? It's not as though the physical parts of what's there, the money, the payment matters, right? He's able to let it go and keep going. And so they win this battle, and he's like successful, right, in doing this, right? But here's where it goes bad. So he's living up to all these requirements, and then, unfortunately, right, he fights the Edomites, and then he takes their gods back and worships them, making offerings to them. And a prophet comes, and Amaziah dismisses the prophet. And then, of course, another battle happens, and that's where Amaziah is defeated, right? They're defeated by the northern kingdom. And so the question is Amaziah a good king? Well, he starts out as one, right? He starts out as a good king, but then it kind of falls apart. Why? Because he cares about getting these idols and bringing them back and worshiping them. And so, what does this mean? Well, it means that maybe, you know, when we have the success, we need to be careful with it. That could be what it means, right? Because before this, these massive battles that he's winning, maybe he started to believe that he was the one winning them. We're not told this, but he certainly cares a lot about, you know, his own power by what he says to the prophet, right? Um, how the king commands the prophet to stop. It's basically telling God to stop talking, right? You can see that this is the idea that's there, right? So you go from a guy who had a lot of promise and who then just falls apart and ends up becoming a lot like the other kings. And that's why he gets a mixed review, right? He does what's right in the eyes of the Lord, but not with his whole heart. He knows what he should do, right? He knows that this is what was required of him, and he does that for a time. But then maybe when it's easy or when it's no longer convenient for him, he switches, right? And then he's killed and defeated by the Israelites, from the northern kingdom. And so that's just what I wanted to talk about, right? Because we're going through these books, and this is a story of a family history for the Jewish people, for the Israelites, for us, right? How do we see kind of these own patterns recreate themselves in our own lives, and how do we stop from falling into them? Do we take success for ourselves and then turn away from God? Do we seek after all of these things that God tells us really are not a priority, but we make them a priority anyway? It's interesting, right? And it shows us our own mirror image sometimes. So that's what we talked about today. I hope you guys found that interesting. And I will see you tomorrow for an episode of A New Thing. It's episode 100. I still don't know what I'm going to do for it. So we'll see what happens there. But have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday, and peace out.